Become a mage and duel your opponents by using spells at your disposal. Today we're talking about Mage Noir. Welcome to episode 11 of Dude, Where's My Cards podcast, where we primarily evaluate strategy card games from both a game designer's perspective and a regular gamer's perspective. As always, my name is Brendan, and I am joined by my co-host Jordan. How are we doing?
Doing pretty good today. How about you, Brendan?
Not too bad. Nice and early in the morning for us, and this is a bit of a change, but days off make that possible. And today's episode, we'll be talking about Mage Noir, which is a new game on Kickstarter right now.
Yeah, we're excited to have our interview with Keneal on today, so we'll jump right into that.
Yep.
Let's say hello to Keneal. Thank you for taking the time to be a part of this episode. Before we jump into the game, is there anything else you want to share about yourself?
Yeah, actually, if we start talking about myself, actually, my background, I'm a data engineer, so I'm an engineer. That's where I come from, and I just love games so much I decided to go for game design instead. That's me.
Isn't that how we all start?
Kinda.
If you don't love it, why do you want to do it?
Yeah, I get that.
That's a cool background. Okay, so you're an engineer by background and you jumped into the game design. That's cool. How long ago did you kind of start your game design journey?
Actually, 2 years ago. Mage Noir is the first thing I ever did as a game designer.
Oh, that's cool.
That's my start.
So
that's an awesome way to start. Then.
Yeah,
a lot of people do not get their first game anywhere as far as you've gotten yours.
Thanks.
Let's jump right into the history about the game. Tell us a little bit about how it's played, the history behind it, just some general information about it.
Spill the beans about your game. Tell us how much you love it.
Yeah. So Mage Noir, it's I guess like everything that goes into this podcast is mostly a strategy card game. The objective with the game when we started creating it from the get-go was to make people feel like they're a true mage. Because we think, actually, I'm doing the game with my associate, Vincent. And we were both very big fans of card games in general, etc. But we really quickly came to the conclusion that most of them were telling you would become a mage or a big warrior, etc. But actually, you're more of a war chief.
A minion master.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
And even though it is very interesting and it's cool, it's not the fantasy that they promise. So we were like, okay, we really want two mages fighting each other with spells, and really, I would say less creatures, way less creatures.
Yeah.
And this is how Mage Noir. This is how it started. We're like, okay, we're gonna remove creatures and make sure we have something that really revolves around spellcrafting and the real elements of the world. So like fire, water. We have 6 elements actually.
Yes.
Fire, water, air, vegetal, mineral, and arcane. And so yeah, our objective was to create a game where you can really feel yourself becoming more powerful and starting with small spells that you use in order to create even stronger ones. So for instance, and with very natural stuff, for instance, you would take an earthquake and an ocean, and if you combine those, you could have a tsunami.
Yeah. Very logical progression.
Yeah, exactly. And we really wanted to create some kind of an open spell crafting system that would allow you to go for things like this and being a true mage that really throws fireballs and not throws goblins at their opponents,
Yeah.
So this is how the game started, and this is how we created it.
I'm right off the hop too, looking at it from that creation style. I really like your gameplay style, how it feels like almost like D&D, like I'm building spell books to increase my spells. It was a very unique feel that I enjoyed there.
Yeah.
Which you definitely nailed with the history part there.
Yes. So do you want to give us a brief rundown of what it's like to play the game or what people can expect when they play it?
What people can expect when they play Mage Noir, it's mostly something that is that feels very thematic. We really put a big emphasis on having spells really, how would I say it? Uh, it was very important for us that the elements would really work like the element would work in the world. So, for instance, if you take water, the water element, we wanted to understand and convey what it feels like to have water and manipulate it. So our objective was to make people feel like they could put some liquid from one container to another if they wanted. So for this, we take the mana from one spell and put it underneath other spells. So you take your mana and you're making it go from one spell to another, just like you would have this kind of flow of water going from one engine to another and using it to make cool stuff, actually. So this is one of the examples. And we did something like this, very thematic, and that really conveys the feel of the element for every element. So this is one big part of the game.
Yeah.
But also, we wanted the game to be very focused around competition and make sure that, we have the flavor part of the game, but the function part of the game was very important for us. So we really wanted to make it competitive. So this means less randomness and also more choices, less random stuff. And we really wanted to make sure that players could choose what they want to do and that their actions would have consequences that they could understand before it happens.
That's a big bueno point for our podcast. We always love the choice of strategy over random.
Yeah, and we really went for this because even though all card games need to have a bit of randomness, and it is tied to the style of the thing, since you have to draw something from your deck most
Absolutely.
of the times.
That's part of
there's
the thrill
this part
of,
of
the games.
randomness. Yeah, it's part of the thrill, and we knew it was important, but we really wanted to make sure players would have the occasion to use their strategy. So we took a whole lot of decisions that would lead to the fact that mostly everything in the game is deterministic. For instance, our mana system is very deterministic. It's always choices. You don't rely on draws or things like that for your mana.
Yeah, do you want to expand on your mana system for us
Yeah.
and for our listeners? Because that's a very important part of this
game. It's a huge
game.
part, and I really enjoy it. So.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Between us, I kind of shifted the conversation towards our mana system because I'm very proud of it.
Okay, we'll be proud of it.
Please talk about
personally, I love it, so talk about it.
Okay, the mana system is, how would I explain it? I think I'll start explaining it from a fluff, more of a thematic point of view. So when two mages are fighting in Mage Noir, they draw their mana and their energy from what we call the infinite ether, which is kind of all of the energy that is into the world. So for this, we have 6 types of mana, one for each element. And at the beginning of your turn, one mage will take a bit of that mana from the infinite ether and put it in what we call the available ether, which is some kind of mana pool, this is some kind of mana pool that is shared between the two players. And once you've taken a part of the infinite ether to put it in the available ether, you have to take part of what's in the available ether and leave a bit of what's left for your opponent, basically. So this means every time you choose to use mana, you're giving part of that mana back to your opponent. And this is the important part. Every time you cast a spell, to create a spell, you need the mana to create it. So you put that mana into the spell, but when you cast it, you release it back in the available ether. So this means if I throw a whole lot of fireballs at you, well, I would just use a whole lot of fire mana that I would release back into the fight, or I would release it back into what's around us. And you could take some of that fire mana to use it for your own spells.
Mm-hmm.
So our thing was to say there's a shared mana pool. Both players can have access to it, and whenever you decide to use your mana, you're giving it a bit back to your opponent.
So as you were saying before, there's strategy and there's consequence to your actions,
Yeah,
which
exactly.
is very important.
Mm-hmm.
And this is very fun because this means that if you decide to go all in on your opponent, you better be sure you kill it because you kill him or you kill them. Yeah, that's
Otherwise,
better.
they'll have a chance to respond
Otherwise,
with
yeah,
gaining
and they will
mana,
hit you probably even harder.
with a better opportunity to set up for later in the
Yeah,
game. Yeah.
exactly. So this is the mana system is actually quite a bit complicated to explain with words, unfortunately.
Yes.
But once you play it, it's so easy and it's so fluid to use. We
Mm-hmm.
really like it.
Yeah, it is incredibly simple, especially once you've seen it played. It just makes sense. It feels like it makes sense, and it takes away the randomness of it, but it is balanced in a way because you're always having to balance what you're choosing for yourself.
Yeah, and this also means that big spells that require a lot of mana, but well, of course, do a lot of things, are also balanced because they give a big part of their mana to the opponent. So anything that would seem overpowered is actually also making the opponent stronger in a way.
Mm-hmm. And
So that helps for balancing.
a lot of your spells in the game, from what I've looked at, a lot of them don't necessarily do a lot on their own, but it's the combo-driven spells that really seem to trigger off into a lot of different things.
Yeah, this is also part of the fact that since we don't have any creatures, actually, what's interesting with creatures because the decision to not have creatures was very important, and we really wanted to make sure we're not making a mistake with it.
Yeah.
Since like kind of every card game revolves around creatures nowadays, most of them, not all of them, but most of them.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to make sure we're not doing a mistake, so we looked at the pros and the cons, and the pros is that it's potentially an infinite number of damage in the deck. So you have one creature, even if it has only one attack, and your opponent has 1,000 HP. If nobody does anything and the creature just attacks every turn, it can kill the opponent. If you have only spells, the number of damage in your deck is kind of set, actually, in a way.
Yeah, that makes sense. And
so
that's
this
where
is
the
why
deck
we wanted to have strong combos.
Yeah. So I guess the other thing we wanted to talk about briefly is the experience of going from a trading card game and turning it into what it is now, and what happened the first time around that made you want to change into an all-in-a-box format.
The very short answer is that we are very, very attentive to the community feedback. So when we started making the game as a TCG with boosters, etc.,
Yep.
The community they were not very much they did not like it very much. They could accept it, but they a lot of people would tell us, yeah, we'd rather have it as an expandable card game. And we were like, okay, let's do a poll on. So we did a poll on Facebook, and we just followed what the community wanted. We also understood afterwards that there was a lot of other stuff with this. Also, the fact that we started on Kickstarter, because we're an indie team, so we really need to go on Kickstarter to make the game live.
Yeah.
The problem is that if the game would have worked a bit, people would have some boosters, etc. They would not have all of the cards in the game. And if the game would happen to die afterward, they would have something that is not complete, and they did not like it at all.
Or be very difficult to obtain everything that they would want. Yeah,
exactly. And we totally understood that, and we said, okay, that totally makes sense. So we're going for an expandable card game.
Okay, no, and as an expandable card game fan myself, I'm way more in favor of this too. I'm on the community side here. I love the all-in-one box theme because I like the idea of a game that is, like you said, strategy focused, where it's more of a I outplay my opponent rather than I outpaid them. So I really, really loved that theme. So I was very excited when I saw
both
that
of
jump.
us here have our fair share of paying way too much money for trading card games, and then after many years regretting it. So, so we both definitely jumped into the expandable card game format ourselves a lot more, and I know the community definitely favors it.
Yeah, I'm part of the club too. I kind of regret all the money I spent on other TCGs.
Well, the thing is, you only regret it long after you're done with it. In the
of
moment,
course.
you love going hard for whatever you need to get your deck to the best it can be, and then you go after it. You're like, 5 years ago, you just go, "Oh my god, what did I do?"
Oh, no.
You're telling me I could buy a vehicle?
So jumping off from that a little bit, I just kind of want to ask you, how is your Kickstarter experience going? How are you guys finding it? What's the most difficult part of it for you so far?
Like the Kickstarter experience is really good. We're really happy that we reached our funded goal so quickly. We are also very happy because we've had the occasion to unlock a lot of stretch goals. So a lot of new cards that we really wanted to put into the game, and we're really happy that those are getting thrown in the mix so that people can create more kinds of decks and more kinds of interactions. The most difficult thing for me is the lack of sleep. Actually,
Being constantly engaged with everyone all the time.
Well, we have to be very reactive when people ask questions and when stretch goals are unlocked to show that they have been unlocked.
Yeah.
So I think on the last 5 days I've slept like per day. I think I've slept something like 5 hours.
Oh yeah. Well, I get that. I have a newborn. The lack of sleep is not easy. But it must be noted too, just for the audience out there, that this game has been out for, he said, 6 days officially as of like maybe 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And they're at 1,010 backers. Like, they had an explosive start for this game. So it's understandable that you're not getting sleep because you have a lot of people asking you questions.
Well, I'd rather have a bit less sleep and have a lot of people wanting to play my games than the other way around.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think anybody on Kickstarter would prefer the other way.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of move
it still needs to be said.
Yeah, so we'll move into the next part. What aspect of your game really pops out or defines your game as something different than the obvious comparable card games out there?
We have a whole blog post about it, so there's a whole lot of stuff. But I think the first thing that people see right away is the mana system is really special. Like the fact of sharing a mana pool is not something you see everywhere. I think the only comparable thing we have is a Chrono Shift. I think that's the name of the mana system that does this. It's used by cards like I think it's Naruto, DBZ, or Digimon.
Even the new Digimon game has a very similar mana share
but it's
system.
not.
But it's not like yours. The concept of sharing is there.
It's the concept of something shared, but it's not as.
It's a re-envisioned version.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the first thing that really makes us different. The other thing is the spell crafting system that I've not seen anywhere. The fact of using smaller spells that you could use as a spell for casting stronger ones. I think it's something really interesting because first, as I stated like some minutes ago, it's very thematic and it creates very logical ways to create spells. But also, it's a very interesting strategic way of thinking for the game because every time you have a spell, you're always wondering, should I use it now for instant benefit? Or do I want to put it aside to have something stronger afterwards? But maybe if I wait now and I put it aside, I won't have the time to develop a big the big spell I want to do afterwards. So you're always trying to balance between having things right now to answer what your opponent is doing and maybe saving it for later and doing more later. And this is really cool. and I've not seen it a lot in other card games.
Yeah, I want to touch on that a little bit. I really like that for the audience that hasn't read the rules or hasn't taken the shot yet. Now, when you do cast these spells that he's talking about, typically it goes into a prepared state, and then from there you have a choice to cast the spell, or you can set it aside as a component. So every card has a name.
Yep.
So, for example, Flame or Draconic Flame. You can you can choose that spell to put it as a component, and cards later will say, oh, you need one flame component to cast this on top of the mana cost. Mm-hmm. But it's not just flame. The thing I like about this game and what you've done really well is the expandableness. So that Draconic Flame, there might be cards, they don't exist now, but there might be cards later in the set that need Draconic components. So cards that necessarily weren't components now could be in the future, which I love.
Yeah, we love this also because this is very open, and for players it gives a lot of options. This means if you have one spell that requires a flame component, you have all the kinds of flames you can put in your deck to reach this spell, like the ability to cast this spell. Mm-hmm. In deck building, you have all the flames existing in the game to go towards what you're trying to do. So you have right now, I think there are 4 types of flame existing. No, 5. So this means you have 5 different options you can go for if you want to use spells that require flames. And this is, I think, a lot of options, and it gives a lot of freedom in deck building, and this is a very important part of the game. But that's good for deck building, but for us, it's also awesome just for game design and making expansions later, because it can allow us, if we see that some cards are not used as much as others, we can put them under the spotlight again by using them as components for more stronger spells in next expansion.
The freedom you've given yourself as a designer with this game is so well thought out, and that's a really huge point.
It plays into the fantasy of truly being a spellcaster.
Yeah. So you did a really, really good job at making that fluff and design work well together, which is appreciative on our side for sure.
Yeah, I'm a bit new in game design. I think I've got a lot of really great ideas, but I have to admit the help from Vincent that is a bit. He has done game design for quite a while now. Was really appreciated, and he is an incredible designer. He has incredible ideas, and he knows where you can go and where you should not try to go in terms of game design, because it's gonna close some doors to you in the long run. He's really an amazing designer.
That's awesome. Yeah, we've been designing games together for 3-4 years now. Brendan's been designing them for a lot longer, so I can see where a lot of the thought process come, because we've probably gone down some of the alleys before. But the execution you've done is really
excellent.
well, and so we really want to note on that and give you props for what it's due. Thank you. I'll go with just leading to another question there. So what are some of the most influential games that you have played from a design perspective? I'm not just meaning board games. This could be video games as well. But what's kind of your influence?
Concerning the crafting system, believe it or not, Minecraft, as simple as that, because it is very open.
That's very cool. I would not have thought of that as an influence.
Yeah.
But I see it now that you say it.
Yeah, when Minecraft started, there wasn't anyone who knew how to craft this and that. Nothing in the game told you that if you put 6 planks in this way on the crafting table, you have a table.
Yeah.
You have a table. No, it's a door. Sorry, you have a door. So it was all about discovery and freedom, and you could do kind of everything you want. And we really wanted to make sure that players could have a lot of way to do stuff. So we've had a lot of influence from Minecraft on that part, but also just for the genesis of the game and the idea of making 2 mages fighting each other with different types of mana, and we don't hide it at all. This game is also a bit of a love letter to Magic the Gathering,
which a lot of card games truly are. Everyone has to take some kind of.
You're talking about the Godfather, the OG of all card games. So everything comes from there.
Started it. They were the first one. They were I would say the true OGs,
Yeah.
And we really enjoyed the game. We played it, Vincent and I, a lot, and we also understood that we could also make our own game that would like it is. How could I say it? We didn't want to reinvent the wheel, so we took very basic and simple concepts that people knew already, but we knew we could make something that is really different and interesting while still saying, yeah, we do love that game.
Mm-hmm. No.
And I think we did a great job at making a game that is definitely not Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, well, you come out with any card game, period, whether it's TCG, expandable, living, whatever and everyone's going to go Magic Clone right off the hop. So I think you did, especially with Mages, obviously that's the first reaction people have, but as soon as you took a look at this game, as soon as you start looking at it, you can right away tell it's not a Magic Clone. It wasn't meant to be a Magic Clone. It's not even anywhere near to a Magic Clone.
Yeah.
But, and that's why we asked that question earlier about what makes a difference, because we know everyone's going to right away say, oh, it's Magic Clone. But it's not.
And on a little side note here, the game name, Mage Noir, is that a fun play on like the Black Mage term from Final Fantasy?
Not directly. Actually, it's Black Mage, but in French, and we're French. Yep. And we wanted to have a bit of our French touch on the game, and we wanted to convey a bit of this.
But the whole idea of Mage Noir gives you that feeling that you're the master of elements. Like, that's what you're going for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to be the master of the elements. We had so many ideas for elements and stuff, but we really narrowed it down to 6.
I actually think it's really cool, the elements you decided on, and even the names for them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not your typical just air, earth, fire, water,
nature,
light, dark, like the stuff that everyone does.
The vegetation.
We still have the classic ones.
Water, fire.
Water, fire, and air, I think.
Yeah.
But we wanted to make sure mineral and vegetal are different, because people would put them together in earth or nature or something like this.
Yeah.
But actually, even water and fire is part of nature, so this wouldn't work.
Yeah.
And the last one, Arcane, is kind of my favorite, I have to say. It's the magic of space and time.
The ability to control things and shift, and I like that. And you get a little bit of taste of it in the base set. On Kickstarter, you have the 4. But each one, all 6 of them, I think there's an available deck for every one of them you have right now, correct?
Yep. You could, in the base game, if you can only take the base box, you will have only 4 of the 6 elements. So you will have fire, air, vegetal, and water. But we have 2 expansions already available on the Kickstarter that are mineral and arcane.
Yeah. Which is awesome. So you have all 6 available right at this type of launch.
Yeah.
Who asked the last question? Was it me? Was it you?
Just go for it.
All right, I'll ask the next one. What's the one thing you'd really wish you had known at the beginning of this project that you know now?
Or has everything gone exactly as planned?
I mean, 2 years he only started, and this is his first game. He's a lucky duck.
He works hard.
Yeah, I think I'll say I'm very lucky. Things went pretty well in general. I've had a lot of luck. Also, I know this, but it's also a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
Things went pretty well. Well, there
Is
could
it
always
more hard
be
work than you expected, or was it about as hard as you thought it would be?
Yeah, I knew from the get-go that it would be a lot of work, and I knew I wanted to put a lot of work into it, and I think I've done even more work than I expected, but I wouldn't do anything in the world.
Yeah, I agree. And the work shows, even so, from your initial attempt launch in March last year, which was a terrible time, unfortunately, to try launching a game anyways, with the way the world went. Even from that launch to this launch, when I look back and I look at it, you even tweaked designs of cards, you made things look smoother, you made it pop more. So even in the time of changing from a TCG to the expandable, you still took time and redesigned your own designs. You weren't just like, okay, we're just going to slap it into a new type. You took the time and actually made the cards better visually from my perspective, and I liked it.
Yeah.
I like what you guys
not,
did
not
there.
only visually. Actually, this time we also took it to really make the elements feel very thematic. I have to say, in terms of game design, I think that even though I'm very proud of our mana system and crafting system, I think the feel of the elements is what I enjoy the most in what I've done on the game, like with Vincent, of course. But
Okay.
on what we've done, I think that's what I like the most about the game. It's how they really feel like you're using the element itself. And in terms of, so yeah, we took also this time not only to do like to say, okay, now this is an expendable card game and we're coming back 2 months after the first Kickstarter. We also took the time to say, okay, we think the game is good, how it was in March. It was already great, but we know we can do better. And this has been how we have worked with Vincent from the very beginning. It's we have this phrase between us that is quality first, no exceptions.
It's a good phrase to have.
Yeah, and I try to stick to it, and I think we've nailed it. We really don't want to go for something that is okay-ish.
No.
And
And
the
this,
backers are definitely responding to the quality of work you have created.
yeah, and this is also why we have a lot of backers that are asking us, do you have like does the game have a 2v2 mode or a PvP mode or a solo mode or things like that? And I always answer the same thing. It's we really wanted to focus on a 1v1 experience that is really great and that we know is just solid and almost perfect. No, I would say even perfect, like period. And this way, when we have this that is really well established and we know it's fun to play, we know it's good, now we can work and change and shift stuff to find the right balance and the right way of playing a solo mode or a PvP mode or a 2v2 mode.
And the great thing that's going to happen as well, because you have enough Kickstarter backers and people playing the game, you're going to find they're going to interact and create their own ways to play 2v2 or play a solo game that'll come back to you, and then you'll really incorporate that into the game with your own touch to make it perfect.
Just like the Commander way of playing Magic the Gathering. I think it started after. I think it started after. That's what I've heard. It started after a tournament where judges would be kind of frustrated to be taking care of matches but never playing. So once the tournament ended, they just went and tried to create some weird kind of goofy way to play the game, and they liked it so much they told it to all of their friends, and then it went so viral that Magic, like Wizard of the Coast, they were like, okay, we're gonna make this official.
Yeah.
No, and it's one of my favorite game types in Magic, so it's a fan-made one. So with the kind of audience you have, it's exciting to see not only what they can bring, but it allows you guys to continue bringing more content too.
Yeah, and this is why we're very attentive to community feedback. That's because we know, even though we know how the game is, they know how to play it in a way that makes it fun for them.
Yeah, and you ask anybody online, you can ask us. The experience with you has been nothing but fantastic, and I think that's kind of the resounding sound across the internet from anyone who's had interaction with you guys. It's just been a great interaction with their fans.
Well, I've always been doing my best to be very friendly and like both friendly but professional.
Nope.
All right,
this is important to us.
Yeah, the last question we want to kind of touch on, this one will be more for the designers who listen to our podcast, who are always failing or trying very hard to do this and not succeeding, is what kind of marketing tactics or events have you done that have allowed you to succeed in a way that you've gotten over 1,000 backers for a genre of card game that people don't often see succeeding to this level?
Many things. First, we've been very active, actually, just being very transparent with the community. So I've been posting like I've stopped a bit, like 1 or 2 months before the Kickstarter because I was starting to give way too much information. But for a long time, I've been posting weekly updates every week for about a year after a failed Kickstarter and even before. So people knew we were there and we were still keeping, we would still keep working on the game and doing stuff. So they knew we were there.
Mm-hmm.
And also, well, we also did our fair share of homework, and we checked how advertisement works on Facebook and on social media and stuff like this. So yeah, it's also a big part of knowing how marketing works in general.
Yeah, so to expand on that more, you said you had a failed Kickstarter. How many backers did you have at the time of that failed Kickstarter?
Well, I can go back on the internet and tell you actually.
It was
I can have the very
136.
exact
So
number.
Jordan says 136. That's probably the ballpark, I'm guessing. So that's such an exponential growth to go from that point where you're at 136 to 1,000 now. So
Oh yeah, sorry.
So to get to that point, you said you've done the weekly updates. You've really engaged with the community. But I want to go back to even before that. How did you get that initial community started from 0 to 136 backers to continue now to over 1,000 backers?
I think also during the previous Kickstarter, we also did a bit of marketing. So a little bit of advertisement just to get known so that people will understand what the game is, what's our philosophy, what they do. I also started doing some weekly updates before that, so people would already have something to read on our blog posts and stuff like this. They knew what the game was all about. And I think being so honest and open with the community and telling like everything we do, what's our design philosophy, how do we think the game is and could be and would be and should be, and etc. People like hearing about what the designers wanted for their games and what they're trying to do.
And when they have the passion for the game that you do, that comes across very clearly and people love to hear about it.
Thanks. Yeah, I think that's something else. It's like not hiding yourself. You just go and talk about it, even if you're bothering 100 people. I guess
be proud of your work, right?
Find it interesting.
No, and I think that's a fantastic way. And I said you were very excited to talk to me about it right away, so you're very passionate about talking. So that's great, because if you're not passionate about your game, how do you expect others to be? But clearly you are your biggest fan, which is what you should be. And I think it shows very well.
Well, as I said in an email, usually I'm the one being like annoying my friends to talk about my game. So if someone comes and say, would you talk about your game? Maybe. I'm like, okay, let's go. When?
Yeah. No. Okay. That's kind of concludes most of the fun interview part. He's got a few questions for you. Let's see how well you can do on these. So you have a general knowledge of card-based strategy games. I mean, you said you weren't very good at them, but you played a few in your time?
I've played a few. I've played, lately I've been mostly playing, I played Hearthstone a lot of time ago when it was during the beginning. So I think I stopped when Death Knights went out of standard.
Okay. And then you stop playing for like a couple of years and you go back and you're like, wow, there are so many new cards. I don't want to start this all over again.
Exactly. So I've never played it again after that.
Smart man.
I played a little bit of Magic during, I would say, around War of the Spark.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm currently playing Legends of Runeterra, kind of like before the Kickstarter started. Now I don't have time to play it, but I really enjoy Legends of Runeterra right now.
It's an interesting take on the genre as well.
Yeah, really.
Like I wasn't expecting much out of it, and it's actually turned out to be pretty good.
Yeah, they did a really great job. I think they're. I think like this is only my opinion. I don't know what Vincent thinks about this. But, my opinion, this is the most dangerous. What's the name again? Not enemy. We have on
competitor.
The market. Competitor. Thank you. This is the most dangerous competitor we have in the market right now, according to me. Oh. Because this is something we don't push on the on the Kickstarter campaign, not to like make people confused or anything, but we are also developing in parallel a video game version of the game.
Awesome.
That's awesome to hear. That's so cool too.
So the game we expect an early access during December of 2021.
Excellent. You're moving very quick on that then.
Yeah, that's because since like the pandemic started and etc., we could not play test the game with people. So we were like, well, let's go for video games then.
That's a good idea. Yeah, and I always complain a lot of the times about CCGs that are missing opportunity, or not just CCGs, but any card-based game are always missing opportunities by not going digital, especially in this today's age.
Well, actually, Vincent and I, for Vincent and I, our background is from video games to start with. We're kind of new in the board game market, actually.
Well, you're doing a good job for your first showing, so that gives us good faith for what you have coming out.
Yeah, we're really doing our best.
I believe you are, and I feel you are. We got 10 questions. What we're going to give you is a brief description of the game. You try your best to see what the game is. Most of these are popular general board games, but they all fall within that card strategy game.
Well, as I say, I'm pretty new on the board game market.
Let's test your knowledge.
Yeah, let's see what happens. What's the worst that happens? You go 0 for 10 and we laugh about it?
Yeah. I will laugh with you, and then I will quit the conversation being like, oh, this was a mess.
We laugh, we cry, we have fun.
Oh no. Let's go for the 0-10. 0-10. Let's go.
Well, let's see if you can get the first one. If you get the first one, we're going 10 for 10, right?
Okay, let's go.
So, here we go. Over 3 ages, 2 players acquire cards that provide resources or advance their military or scientific development in order to develop a civilization and complete wonders. What game are we talking about?
Oh, this is 7 Wonder.
It is 7 Wonders. Yeah. Good.
Look at that. We're going for 10 for 10.
Yeah, we're going 10 for 10 because you already ruined your 0 for 10.
What a mistake.
Well, you started off well. You can't get 0 now. Jumping into number 2.
You get 0 for 9 now, though.
Corporations seek to score agendas by advancing them. Doing so takes time and credits. To buy the time and earn the credits they need, they must secure their servers and data forts with ICE. These security programs come in different varieties, from simple barriers to code gates and aggressive sentries. They serve as the corporation's vital eyes, ears, and machine guns on the sprawling information superhighway of the network.
So this is Netrunner?
That is Netrunner, absolutely.
2 for 2. See, you didn't give yourself enough faith.
All right, on to the next one. This one might be a little more difficult.
Okay.
A cooperative game that explores the deck-building genre with a number of innovative mechanisms, including variable turn order system that simulates the chaos of an attack, and deck management rules that require careful planning with every discarded card. Players will struggle to defend Gravehold from the Nameless and the Hordes using unique abilities, powerful spells, and most importantly, their collective wits. What game are we talking about?
Nope, I don't have this one.
That's all right. This is Ion's End.
Yeah.
This is a relatively smaller game that not many people know that one.
Well, the description on that one's tough. It's not a small game. It's just not the greatest description from BGG.
Well, still, 2 out of 3 so far. We're doing good. I got to give you props. Number 4 for me, we're going each player starts with an identical, very small deck of cards. In the center of the table is a selection of other cards that players can buy as they can afford them. Through their selection of cards to buy and how they play their hands as they draw them, the player constructs their deck on the fly, striving for the most efficient path to the precious victory points by the end game. What game are we talking about?
That could be Dominion.
That is Dominion.
That is Dominion.
Okay.
3 for 4.
All right.
Yeah, I think we can stop there. This way I have a 75% win rate, and then it's good.
Hey, you're doing better than I think.
It's funny.
Better than I thought I did when I would have done this blind.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so we're on to number 5 now. A fast-paced deck-building card game of outer space combat. It combines the fun of a deck-building game with the interactivity of a trading card game-style combat. As you play, you make use of the trade to acquire new ships and bases from the cards being turned face-up in the trade row from the trade deck. You use the ships and bases you acquire to either generate more trade or to generate combat to attack your opponent and their bases. When you reduce the opponent's score, called authority, to 0, you win. What game are we talking about?
Okay, this is annoying because I know the name. I know the name, but right now I cannot find it. It is from Fantasy Flight Games, and it is... I don't remember the name. This is so annoying. Star Realms.
It is Star Realms.
Look at you.
Okay.
So a quick note on Star Realms here. While playing your game through the vegetation-based deck, I noticed you do have the slight creatures, and that's the only time I think I've seen them is in the vegetation.
This is what we have that is the closest to creatures, although for us it's permanence with HP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it reminds me more or less of creatures, more of bases in Star Realms, where it's a permanent with HP that triggers something every turn.
Okay.
So
that's it.
Jumping to number 6, my turn.
A little bit harder here.
Uh-oh.
This game pits powerful mages against each other in deadly arena combat. Each mage uses his fully customizable book of spells to achieve total victory over his opponent. Summon mighty creatures to do battle in your name, cast powerful spells to attack your foe, and thwart his every plan and strategy. Use hidden enchantments to turn the tables and rule the day. Adorn yourself with mighty weapons, armors, and arcane artifacts. What game are we talking about?
Oh, this is a small game. Nobody plays it. I'm sure it's Magic the Gathering.
Nope. This is Mage Wars Arena. The key here is in the arena combat.
Ah, this is the problem. Okay.
This is a small game.
Good trap. I got caught.
You got caught by the mages in summoning. It's okay.
Yeah.
For a while, I thought you were going to say your game.
Oh, we should do that. We should subtly throw in their own description.
That'd be funny one time.
All right, jumping into number 7B.
All right, number 7. All of the eligible young men and many of the not so young seek to woo the Princess of Tempest. Unfortunately, she has locked herself in the palace, and you must rely on others to take your romantic letters to her. Will yours reach her first? What game are we talking about?
Love Letter.
Oh, yeah.
Indeed it is.
Micro game for the win. Number 8.
It's fun to play. It's quick. I like it.
I like it as well. It's a household favorite for me. Jumping to number 8. A cooperative deck building game, and it's up to 4 students to ensure the safety of the school by defeating villains and consolidating their defenses. In this game... you want to guess?
Book of Madness?
Nope, I'm going to keep going then.
We're going to continue.
In this game, players take on the role of a student, each with their personal deck of cards that use to acquire resources. By gaining influence, players add more cards to their deck in the form of iconic characters, spells, and magical items. Other cards allow them to regain health or fight villains, keeping them from gaining powers. The villains set back players with their attacks and dark arts. Only by working together will the players be able to defeat all the villains, securing the castle from the forces of evil.
Nope, I don't have it.
That's Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle.
Oh, okay.
That one's not as common, so that was a good catch. Number 9B.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to number 9, a fantasy deck-building game. Each player starts with a basic deck of cards that they can use to purchase, upgrade to, other more powerful cards. The game will tell a specific story with a series of preset dungeon tiles, monsters, heroes, and support cards. Each will come with a series of mini-adventures and a story booklet that tells players what happens as they progress through the scenarios. What game are we talking about?
No, I don't have this one either.
Thunderstone Quest.
I would not have found it.
All right, number 10. I don't think anybody's gotten this one yet, so let's see if you're going to be lucky. In this game, you will build decks, play the meta, acquire valuable collections, crack open random boosters, and compete in tournaments for prizes and fames. This game takes you from starter deck to regionals in about 2 to 3 hours. Multiple games can also be chained together to form a campaign, going from regionals to nationals in Game 2 and nationals to worlds in Game 3. With each game introducing the even more powerful cards and higher stakes. but also resetting the power of the game so that each player has a fair chance to win each season of the campaign. This is basically our lives.
I have no idea.
Millennial Blades.
Nope, would not have found it.
6 out of 10? B, is that what you got?
Okay,
5 out of
okay.
10.
5 out of 10?
5 out of 10. Still a passing grade, which is
Still
much
got
better than the
50%.
0 that was initially guessed.
Awesome. Thanks for playing with us. We
I'll
always
say
like
it's
to see.
half a relief.
It was good. You did a great job. I think I got like 4 the first time through, so you beat me.
Ooh.
And I don't know, B made it, so he didn't take it. But
Yeah.
he'll take my next one, and we'll see. Okay, so we pretty much can wrap this up, but I want to give you the floor. Tell people where they can go, what's going on, what's kind of happening, and you just take it away.
Well, I think for us, what would help us the most is just to go check out Mage Noir's Kickstarter campaign and come drop hi. Come on the Discord if you want, where I usually hang out and make a fool of myself as usual. You can also come on Board Game Geek and just check what the game has to offer, and like you have a lot of things to see, but I think everything is on the campaign. You'll have access to every of our social media.
Okay, and we'll make sure that we share that campaign. And as always, thank you very much for taking the time
Yes,
out of your day
thank
to
you.
have the interview
Thank
with
you.
us. We appreciate it, and I hope you had fun.
Yeah, it was great.
Okay.
And I hope we can talk to you again more in the future, because it was a pleasure and it's always fun talking to you.
Yeah, and it would be a pleasure for me also.
Excellent. Well, we hope you have a good rest of your day, and
We'll move on to the review part of our game.
yes, we will.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, so moving on to our review, where we look at the game from an impression category, game categories, and post-play categories, where we rate the game out of 50. We will start off with our impression category of Mage Noir. In this category, we have theme, rules, design and art, and complexity, all of which are out of 5 points each. Starting off with theme, Brendan, what did you rate this game?
This is actually a really cool theme for me. It's not, in a sense, like a IP overworld, entire structured place where you can enjoy the characters and what's going on, but the idea of how the theme links together with the actual game, I almost gave it a 5.
Yeah, I'm surprised because
I went for a 4.
in most of these games, in most games, you like to be the spellcaster. You like to be this bursty
Yeah.
mage. So this almost was tailor-made for you in the fact that you get to finally reveal that you're a mage.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm also putting it at a 4. It isn't that generic fantasy that defaults it to a 4 for us. It's, a little bit more...
Well, to me, it is a generic fantasy. It's just
I guess so.
a positioned fantasy specifically to spellcasters, not the whole world of spellcasters.
Yeah, and I like you said, it's not an IP. There isn't some insane story depth to the game yet. It's still very, very new. But even without all that things, I think there's such a solid base theme there that, again, for me, it's a 4 and was almost a 5 as well.
Like I look at this, if we had an in-between point, it would actually probably be closer to a 5 for me, but a 4.9 is not a 5. Like
Yeah.
a 4.9 is a 4. So
If we had an out of 10, this is a 9. Not quite all
Yeah,
the way, but
yeah.
it's close. Okay, yeah, we're sitting at the same point for the same reasons. It's cool to see. So jumping into the rules section of the game, I'll start with this one. I give it a 5. This game was incredibly easy to understand. The rules are very clear. It's 20 pages of a rulebook. The rulebook, half of which is just fluff and entertainment. So the core meat of how to play this game is very simple.
Yep.
And I enjoy that.
I also have it as a 5 because it's not a long rule book. When you're playing these kind of games, you do expect a lot more in-depth information in terms of chain resolution and just overall mechanics of the game. And there really isn't that much you have to do on your turn.
Mm-hmm.
It's your choices that matter, not the stages of games that you're going through.
Or the operation of things. And the way that they present it, there isn't a need for chaining or, what triggers first, because it kind of is very straightforward in that sense that this is what happens.
And the big part for me is you already talked about, like, there is a lot of open space. There's a lot of pictures. The information presented is done so in a way that it's easy to digest.
Yeah.
And that to me makes it a simple read that doesn't feel boring because there's a lot of pictures and there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of color changes to make sure you know what information is truly important and what information is just getting you through the game.
And it doesn't feel dry. It's not a chug along to really just, okay, I need to get the rules so I understand the game so I can play. No, you enjoy the experience of the rules, which is very important.
Yeah.
So it's a 5 for me, 5 for you as well.
Yep.
Okay, that one's doing good so far. We're on par. Design and art portion of it. From, I guess, my perspective, I gave it a 4. Okay. I think the design of the cards themselves are laid out really well. I like the little swoosh and icon and the calligraphy and the way that stuff is presented on it. Some of the art is really good for like my preferential, and some of the art is a little bit different. So there's so many different styles of art in this game that it kind of doesn't have that whole unified feel, which is good and bad. I don't think it's quite perfect like a 5, but I think it's very well done overall. So 4 for me.
And this to me would be a 4.5 if I could give it. But I'm actually giving this one a 5.
Okay.
I really think the cards look good. They function the way they need to. The only thing I would say about this card that I wish they had was a smaller text area and larger art. I think the art in this game is really good.
Yeah.
And I think the window that they have presenting it is just too small.
Yeah, okay.
And that's just a pet peeve or a nitpick from me, because I want to see the art on the card I'm playing, where I understand that the art could not exist and the game would play perfectly fine.
Yeah. But that's a good way to look at it. And honestly, we talked about with Keneal about like the full arts and the holographics, and some of their Kickstarter exclusives that they're offering are some full arts of the Mage Noir cards for each one of those colors, and they really do go full art and really pop it. And I think you'll probably lean towards you wish you would
I don't think there's any text on those cards though, right?
I'm not sure. I don't know if they're final products or what they have exactly, but I do. You get a little bit of pop of a full art, which is cool. But yeah, I do get what you're saying, that you would wish to see a little bit more imagery, and it's hard in a game, any card game that involves. It's
hard to find that balance.
Yeah, because you need enough text for everything, but you also, sometimes it seems like there's too much of a box.
And you also want your text to be a certain amount of space, and you can't.
Sizing, hard
You
to
can only
see.
do concise text how many times in editing?
Yeah.
You have to go, okay, we can cut out this word. Oh, we can change this word. Oh, we can change the spacing. And eventually you're still going to have 3 lines of text that you need on the card in some way.
And how many times with Soulbound, while we were designing it, we had people say, oh, your text is just too small. So we would have to go through such a rigmarole just to get that text size up half a point. And suddenly they're like, oh, that's perfect. But the amount of effort it took to get that half a point sizing was incredible.
The amount of stuff where it's like, okay, do we have to create a keyword for this so we can cut out these 4 words and put it in the rule book? Like, that's just...
It was a lot. So I get I get the difficulties with that.
Yes, that's why I bumped it up to a 5, because through all those difficulties, I still think the cards look extremely good. If you were to show me this card blind and say, would you play this game? I'd be like, I'd be interested in looking at this game because the cards do interest me.
And that's, I think, one of the biggest things we always talk about for us. Rules and art are the 2 most important things to build an audience. You need the art to pull people in, and then you need the rules and gameplay to keep them engaged. Mm-hmm. And I think they did a great job on the art.
They did.
Jumping into complexity, which is out of 5. This is the expectation of complexity, what we expected to what we received. Doesn't necessarily mean the game is overly complex or under. It just, we want it to hit the mark of where we expect. Mm-hmm. For me, this game was surprisingly simple from what I expected, but not in the sense that it was too easy or too difficult. I was just expecting some crazy amount of rules to get what they were trying to go after, and they did it so seamlessly that it's a 5 for me. This was overachieving in my mind from what I expected, so it was an instant 5.
I have to say, that's where I'm at a 5 also, because I had a level of expectation for complexity, and it didn't get there, and that's not a bad thing. Mm-hmm. Like, the complexity was easier than I thought it would be, but that didn't take away from the experience. So complexity is also a 5.
When we get a little bit better into the depth and stuff like that, it still manages to hit that, but hit it in a way that I didn't think was simple. Yep. So that's exactly the same reason for me. Okay, so we jump into our game category. We have gameplay and depth in here. Gameplay is out of 10. Depth is out of 5. We have gameplay at a higher rating just because we feel it's very important to a game to be fun to play.
That and gameplay, if it's a good game, it'll overshadow the rest of the categories.
And it's very broad in the sense that there's so much involved in gameplay, and if we start breaking down this rubric, we'd be here all day. Yeah. So it just is a larger category because there's more meat to it. So jumping into gameplay, I have it at an 8. on the sole purposes of I have not actually fully played the game with everything involved in it. I've only experienced 2 of the 6 available colors.
Yeah.
So what I felt was very fun and impressive. I could not fully give a really, really high score because I can't judge the game at its full complexity.
8's still a high score.
It's a good score, but I'm just saying it could have been higher if I could feel everything, but I didn't want to overcommit to too much without experiencing the full game because it is still Kickstarter. We still only have a beta version that we can play that is only 2 of the decks. We weren't fortunate enough to get a full starter.
Yes. And I'm in the same boat as you. I went 8 for almost all the exact same reasons. It was fun to experience what we could experience. The novelty of being a spellcaster, casting spells, the whole system of having components that can build into other spells, or you can fire off the spells that you have channeling without needing greater components to cast bigger spells. That feels really good. That feels really clean. And that to me makes the gameplay just feel good.
Yeah. The very core of what you're doing and going through how you cast your spells and all that doesn't change from color to color. It's more what style suits you personally. And I didn't get to experience this true styling because we didn't get to build the custom deck. So I can't, like I said, 8 felt like an appropriate score for right now. It could be higher, it could be lower. I suspect it would be higher if I had the full experience, but 8 is where I sit as well. Jumping into depth though, because we do have access to what we know is in the game.
This is again out of 5.
Out of 5, yeah. So we have, I think, the 6 colors as mentioned, 40 unique cards of each color. The base set is only 4 of them, but still, looking at that, there's a lot of depth and potential growth of depth for me. The ceiling is limitless here with the keyword function in playing games, so it's a 5.
Okay, I put it as a 4 because once again, it is hard to fully evaluate the game based on what we had as an experience.
Yeah,
and I'm not going to give something a 5 and put our credit on the line for it being a 5.
For me, though, it was just the fact that I see so much available potential of what it
I'm not
can
going
be.
to deny that there is tons of available potential.
Yeah.
But until I've experienced it all and want to continue to experience it all, I can't give that depth a 5.
Yeah. I think I was just really excited about the potential of keywords that I was just like, yep, no problem. But I see where you're coming from. It's a good way to look at it, especially because that's how I looked at it for the gameplay part. Okay, jumping into our post-play category, we have replayability and cost satisfaction. We give replayability out of 10, another boosting score because it's important to want to replay games, we feel.
What's the point in playing a good game if you don't want to ever replay it again?
Sometimes that's great, sometimes if that's what you're looking for, but we always want to see the potential for continued play. And then cost satisfaction, which is out of 5 as well. So starting off with replayability out of 10, I'll let you start with this B and kind of start with your notes.
My replayability I put as an 8. I matched it to the gameplay. For almost the exact same reasons, the novel actions of having components to spells, building them up, firing off spells, not worrying too much about creature management, which they call permanence, and there's not many permanents in the game. But permanents kind of almost act as like bases, more so with effects than actual creatures. So that's a nice touch. But it's just such a simple game flow to follow. You don't need much card to game experience to execute the game. You might need good knowledge to be good at it, but the simple mana exchange, the simple way you component cards or you cast cards, as it is right now, you said we had the 2 color experience,
the vegetation
tabletop
and
simulator. So I put it as an 8 because I would play it again. I would want to explore maybe what customizing a deck would feel like as opposed to pre-made decks.
Yeah.
So for now, 8. It could be as high as a 10. It could be lower depending on what the actual gameplay is when you have all 6 colors. But when it comes to replayability in a game like this, and we already have it as an 8 with only 2 colors, I don't see it going down. I see this being a highly replayable game because it's very easy to pull out.
Yeah, and all the exact same reasons it's an 8 for me as well. I matched it to the gameplay because don't want to overcommit to too much here. And the real fun of these games for us personally is building those unique decks. The fact of mixing colors together, can mix them all or just a splash of this. And a lot of the cards, even for like core colors, need a splash of another color. So it's like, oh, why wouldn't you build a little bit into that?
Yeah.
So right off that, it tells me that it's going to be a good replayable game, but it just, like you said, we can't commit to anything without experiencing the full game in itself, and that just kind of comes with it being a brand new game that's on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
So 8 out of 10 for me there as well. Jumping to cost satisfaction, we can kind of base that on what the Kickstarter is currently going for.
Yep.
And what the expected satisfaction for this game is, or would be. For what everything is offered in this game, first off, being an expandable card game with over, I think, almost 1,100 backers now as of today. You can tell that this game is going to continue. There's going to be new expansions.
Yes, and I hope that it continues to grow. So I would hate to see a second set be released and have the backers drop off significantly for whatever reason. But
when I look at all that and I see the potential and I see it's an expandable card game, which right away, all-in-one box games are my favorite. I do love that. So jumping into that, looking at the cost, I think the base set is 45 Canadian, 50 Canadian for us, plus the shipping. But you really can't judge a game by shipping right now because of the way that the world is. It's kind of just a factor of it. So when I look at that, the base set, which is 4 colors, 40 cards, unique cards for each color. It's 160 cards in the base set, plus all the other expansions.
And the ether cards that come with that as well.
The ether cards, it's 24 of each color. So there's quite a few cards in this box, as well as all the unique Kickstarter cards that we're getting now, which add a splash of each of the other colors if you do not want to get the expansions that they have right away. It seems like there's a lot of value, and from the gameplay I've played, I feel like it would be very satisfying. So my expected cost satisfaction, because we can't base it on a game that I haven't purchased yet, would be a 5 for me. It kind of seems to check all the boxes right away. But this is a keynote being more of an expected, so I should probably drop this more to a 4 because I can't fully say that it's 100% satisfaction because I haven't received the game. So I'll sit it with a 4.
Yeah, you're going to change it down
to
a 4?
I am, because the more I think about it, I really shouldn't commit to something that I haven't purchased. It's all based on my expectations, which seem like they've been met, but I can't say that without owning the game.
And I put it as a 4 as well, but my rationale is a little bit different. I think that there's good value in the game in terms of cards, quality of components, quality of art, actual gameplay in the base set. That's fine, whatever. But to get the additional 2 colors that do not come into the base set, you're looking at over $100 for everything.
Yeah, I think it was like close to 99. Yeah, for both expansions.
And well, I get there's a lot of cards. There's a lot of content that you get for the $100 Canadian that we're talking about. $100 is still a lot for me to invest in a game.
Yeah, that's understandable.
And so the cost satisfaction, even if I can justify, this is great, I get the great value out of the base set, and then because I'm so happy, paying for the expansion, then paying for another expansion is justified. But to do it all at once, I kind of cringe a little bit, especially because we've gotten this sample of gameplay that we've really enjoyed, but what happens if that's our new expectation and the rest of the colors come in and they don't quite feel as good as playing just the 2 colors that we had?
Yeah. I've seen what the other two being water and fire. I've seen what's in them.
Yeah, we know what's potential in them.
I honestly haven't seen a lot of the Arcane or the
Mineral.
Yep. Mineral. I haven't seen those 2. I don't know if a lot of the reviewers received those 2 yet. So based on the original core set, I think, there's a lot there. I would have loved to see this at a better price point for all 6. And if all honesty, I believe they even had an early bird, which you could have maybe got for $75.
Yeah, that would have made it a lot more palatable.
Huge. Yeah. But hey, we missed that, and that sucks. But at that price point, it would have been a no-brainer if I had experienced everything that I experienced before the early bird had closed.
Yeah.
That's the benefit of being one of those quick Kickstarters who know about all this stuff and back right away. I do think there's a lot of value to the core, but I would have also loved to be able to get all of the 6 main colors right away.
So I do have to add in as well, on the Kickstarter, they do have optional additions that you can add in there. One of them being custom card sleeves for the game.
Yeah, custom card sleeves, holographics.
Are those add-ons? Oh, that's cool. But to me, the big one is that you can actually get custom sleeves for this game that are for this game. It's not just going to the store and someone's throwing in clear sleeves for you.
Yeah, it's coming from a designer's perspective. It's really difficult to offer those editions because you have to order such a quantity of them to be able to offer them to people at a decent price. So it's really cool to see them. You know, like I said, they have the holographic version of the ether cards so that they're all shiny on both sides. The extra sleeves, you can buy the expansions. The fact that there's 2 expansions readily available is also a huge commitment by Mage Noir to say that we're already going to do this whether we can get enough people to make copies.
Yeah.
Which clearly they've done, and they succeeded in that. They're doing really good, and they still have over 20 days active left. But it was a commitment on their part to offer things like that, and I think it shows that they're committed to their game in that way.
And after talking to Knell about it, there's so much passion and commitment to this game that I don't see this stopping anytime soon.
Yeah, no, and I have a lot of excitement for the future for what it can bring. He's got a high pedestal he's put himself on, and I hope he can continue to deliver, and I feel that he can. But let's jump into our final score of this game. Out of 50, Brendan, what did you rate it?
43.
Look at that. We are matching 43 as well for me. That's unprecedented that we're usually on the same page completely.
Well, you were at a 44 until you changed it.
Had one change, and I think you had a little bit higher, and I had higher in the depth, so it makes sense. So our final verdict, we do our cash or trash, but is it a back or skip? I feel like this game is a back. I feel like you should try and pick up a copy of this game if you are wanting to be a mage wielding spells at your opponents, or if you just want to try out a new card game, whether you're experienced or not. I think this is a great intro as well as veteran style game.
Yeah, for those listening to this podcast, clearly you're already interested in strategy card games. And this game is a nice step in a different direction from what you're used to experiencing in strategy card games. And that is a good thing. That's not a bad thing by any means. Yep. So yes, game is cash, this game is back, this game is go out and support these people because they're going to do nothing but good things with this game, in my opinion.
Yeah, jumping into, I guess, our little final thoughts here. One tidbit for me, for my final thought, is I'm interested in how Keneal worded some things. He mentioned that this game is a head-to-head 2-player game, but while talking to him, it didn't seem that it was out of the realm for this game to be a solo game or a 2v2 or a free-for-all. He didn't say that when people asked him, he said no. He said, what we're doing is focusing on a good, successful 2v2.
Put out 1v1, the quality game that you have.
And then look at expanding to there. So the fact is that they've at least thought about it, or they have something in the works that they want to do, which excites me in the sense that this game isn't just going to be a head-to-head.
Another thing that we have to talk about that Keneal talked about when we talked to him was that this is going digital too.
Yeah, oh right, I forgot about that. That he's doing the thing that I always say CCG should do.
And that's a very important thing to put into our final thoughts, is that the value of this game and the fun and the accessibility of this game, if successfully launched digitally, is going to go through the roof. Mm-hmm. And if that exposure goes well, this game will explode. So this could be a great time to jump into it, enjoy the game for what it is, and then watch the competitive scene grow if it is done successfully. Yeah,
and as things open up in the world, or it doesn't, they're going to have a digital presence as well as a physical presence. And I'd like to see some way that they combine these two, or however they work it. But I think it's going to be an exciting experience and journey for them. So I'm definitely going to be following closely.
Mm-hmm. Anything else?
No, that's it for me.
Good. Well, thanks for listening, guys. See you next time. Thank you for tuning in to the DWMC podcast, a Paragon Professional Services production. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you have any comments or concerns about what you have heard, send us an email, contact@paragonstudiosmb.com. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to the show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you consume your podcasts, and leave a comment with a 5-star review if you feel so inclined. For those of you watching on YouTube, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment below.